Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Brace yourself. This isn't one of those stories where the ending makes sense. This is the kind where you keep asking, did that really happen? And unfortunately, it did. It all started with a voice message that wasn't meant for me. 10 seconds. That's all it was. Just 10 seconds of audio, muffled by wind, recorded at what sounded like a street corner. It began with her laughter, not the fake kind she gave my mom at Thanksgiving, but the real one. The laugh I hadn't heard in months. And then she said, clear as anything, he thinks I'm at Pilates. I've got a date. End of message. It popped up on my phone around 6:17 p.m. I was microwaving leftover stew and flipping through old emails, trying to find a receipt for a garden hose. And then, ding, message from her. I opened it without thinking. That's when the world slowed down. You ever have a moment when something small breaks you? Not a fight, not a slap, not some dramatic soap opera scream, just a whisper. And suddenly, your knees don't quite work, and the microwave beeps like it's mocking you. That's what this was. I stared at the phone, replayed it, twice. Then I texted her. You sent this to me. No reply. I watched the 3 dots bubble up, then disappear, then come back, then disappear again. I didn't even know what to feel. Hurt? Humiliated? I wasn't angry yet. I was still stuck on why. She came home 43 minutes later. Wearing the coat she only pulls out when she wants to feel pretty. Her lips were still slightly pink, like she'd wiped off lipstick but forgot the corners. She looked surprised to see me standing in the kitchen like I'd caught fire and didn't know how to stop burning. I didn't ask. I just held out the phone. She blinked once, then twice. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Then finally, that wasn't meant for you. She said it like that made it better. Like it being meant for someone else was the part one should be focusing on. I asked her one question. Who? She paused. She genuinely thought about lying. I could see it in the way her eyes flinched toward the window, like she was looking for an escape route. But then she said, it's not serious. It's just fun. There it was. That word again. Fun. As if our 6-year marriage was some boring waiting room she needed a break from. I sat down at the table, pulled out a chair across from me, and gestured for her to sit. She didn't. She leaned against the counter like this was some kind of negotiation. You don't touch me anymore, she said. I told her I didn't know I had to compete with a stranger for basic respect. She sighed, rolled her eyes. I didn't plan this, okay? It just happened. But that wasn't true. I'd seen the signs. The locked phone. The girls' nights that ended past midnight. The laughter from the bathroom while she texted someone and said, it's just Megan. I just didn't want to believe it. Because believing it meant admitting that the woman who once made me pancakes with my initials and syrup was now calling someone else while I folded her towels. Then she dropped the final line. I'm still going. No apology. No regret. Just that. She was still going. To the date. After all this. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I stood up, walked to the bedroom, and pulled the drawer she always forgets is hers when she's mad. I emptied it into the laundry basket. Not angrily. Just done. When I brought it out, she was still standing in the same spot. What's that? She asked. I told her it was everything she might want to take to his place. She laughed. She laughed. Said I was being ridiculous. That I was making this bigger than it is. And that's when I shattered her world. I didn't throw anything. I didn't curse. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at her, tired, broken, but finally awake, and said, you can go. But when you do, don't ever try to come back. Her jaw dropped. Her eyes watered instantly. Because for the first time in our marriage, I wasn't the soft place she could land. I was the door she never thought would close. The door clicked shut behind her. Not slammed. Not yanked. Just a simple, final click. That sound haunted me more than the message. It was so casual. Like she was heading out for groceries instead of walking out of our marriage. I stood in the middle of the living room, holding the laundry basket full of her workout clothes, a half-zipped hoodie dangling over the edge like it still expected her to come back and wear it. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stood there, numb. The silence in the apartment was thick. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort. It presses on your chest, like you're underwater but still breathing. I looked around the room, and it struck me. Everything still smelled like her. Her perfume was still floating near the door, like a ghost that hadn't realized she wasn't welcome anymore. The dog, Hank, our old, sleepy golden retriever, walked up beside me and sat down. He let out this long sigh. like even he knew something irreversible had just happened. I knelt beside him and whispered, "She's not coming back, buddy." But I was wrong. She did come back. 36 minutes later, to be exact. I was halfway through reheating my stew and Googling what to do when your wife leaves you for someone named Mason when I heard her keys at the door. My heart skipped, and not in a romantic way. It was like being yanked out of sleep during a nightmare and realizing the nightmare followed you into real life. She didn't knock. She just walked back in like nothing happened. No tears. No anger. Just this cold, robotic calm that didn't belong to the woman I married. Her eyes scanned the apartment like she was checking to see if it was still standing. And then she walked into the bedroom without saying a word. I followed, but not too close. I stood by the doorframe and watched her go straight to the nightstand. She opened the drawer and pulled out her old silver necklace, the one I gave her on our first anniversary. I didn't even know she still had it. She stared at it for a second, then dropped it back in the drawer. Then she said the most bizarre thing I've heard in my entire life. "Can you feed the fern?" The fern. Our houseplant. That's what she came back for. Not her charger. Not her favorite hoodie. Not even her toothbrush or the envelope of cash she kept hidden behind the spice rack. No. She came back to ask if I'd keep the fern alive. "Are you serious right now?" I asked. She blinked. "It's really sensitive to water timing. You can't just guess." That's when I cracked. Not with rage. Not with some movie-worthy monologue. Just laughter. Broken, ugly laughter. The kind that leaks out when you've been holding everything in for too long and your brain decides this is how it escapes. She looked at me like I'd lost it. Maybe I had. "You cheated on me," I said, still half laughing. "And you're worried about a plant?" She tried to explain. She said she didn't technically cheat. That emotional confusion wasn't betrayal. That she just needed space. That she had been honest by telling me about the date. Like whispering it like some kind of flirty confession erased the months of lies that led up to it. I told her to take the fern. Take it, the necklace, the charger, the comforter. Take the whole apartment if she wanted. I didn't want to live in a museum of what used to be us. She finally looked shaken. Like for the first time, she realized I wasn't playing the same role anymore. I wasn't the patient, quiet husband waiting for her to stop craving chaos. Then she asked something I didn't expect. "Can I come back if it doesn't work out?" "I swear to you," that's what she said. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I made a mistake." Just, "Can I come back if it doesn't work out?" I stared at her for a long time. Then I walked over to the door, opened it, and waited. She didn't say anything else. She walked out slowly, like a child who knew she was in trouble but didn't quite understand why. And this time, she didn't close the door behind her. I did. And as I locked it, the strangest calm came over me. Like maybe, just maybe, I was starting to breathe again. But the calm didn't last. Because a few hours later, I found something hidden behind the fern pot. Something that proved her date wasn't the beginning. It was just the next chapter in a story I hadn't realized had already been written. After I locked the door behind her that second time, I stood there in the hallway, breathing like I'd just run 10 miles, shaky, uneven, like air suddenly had weight. Hank lay curled on the floor next to the door, giving me this look like, "So that's it?" And honestly, I didn't have an answer for him. I didn't even know what to do with myself. I wasn't used to being alone in my own apartment. Not like this. Not after what just happened. I walked back into the bedroom to clear out the mess she left behind. Half-open drawers, makeup brushes on the dresser, one sock on the window ledge. Everything felt like a leftover fragment of a life we used to share. But my eyes kept drifting to the fern in the corner. It stood there like some smug witness. The last thing she cared about before she asked if she could return in case her date didn't work out. I shook my head and moved toward it, mostly out of frustration. The pot was still sitting on the tiny round stand I built for it 3 years ago when she said the floor made the leaves feel low energy. I don't know why I bent down to check the back of the pot. I didn't expect to find anything, but I did. A small, beige envelope taped behind the pot's ceramic base. It had no name, no markings, just sealed with a small red heart sticker, the kind she used to decorate letters with during our second year of marriage when she'd leave them in my lunchbox. My fingers trembled as I pulled it loose. Inside were 4 things. A folded photo of her at the beach, holding hands with someone. A key I didn't recognize. A receipt from a hotel just outside of town. And a note. In her handwriting. Cambria plus M. Room 207. 2 nights only. Don't bring your phone. I sat down on the edge of the bed and felt everything go completely still. I stared at that little heart sticker like it was some twisted version of our old life, smiling at me while stabbing a blade between my ribs. So it wasn't just a date. It wasn't just one slip. This had been happening for a while. Planned. Secret. Calculated. With souvenirs. I wanted to scream. But nothing came out. I just pressed my palms into my eyes so hard I saw white. And for the first time since this started, I cried. Not a dramatic sob. Not loud. Just this pitiful, quiet dripping of tears I couldn't stop. It wasn't even about her being with someone else. It was that she had hidden this so well, while I was busy writing love notes on smoothie cups like a fool. I stayed on the bed for what felt like hours. Every time I looked at that photo, I noticed another detail. The way her hand fit perfectly in his. The sunglasses she said she lost last summer. The smile she hadn't given me in years. It wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. Like I had been edited out of her world and replaced with someone stronger, more exciting, more new. I put everything back in the envelope and locked it inside my desk drawer. Not because I planned to forgive her, but because part of me still didn't believe it was real. Like if I hid it long enough, maybe it would all vanish in the morning. But it didn't. The next morning came, and so did a message. From an unknown number. Hey, this is Mason. I think we should talk. I stared at it for a long time. My hands went cold. I didn't respond. Not immediately. Not for an hour. Because suddenly I realized something. Cambria never told him she was married. That voice message. That hotel trip? That may have been her little escape, but he didn't know about me. And if Mason wanted to talk, then maybe I wasn't the only one being lied to. I never intended to reply to Mason. I didn't know him anything. He was just a name, a body with a smirk in a text thread. A man who got her laughter while I got cold dinners and silence. But the moment I found that envelope behind the fern, something shifted. I didn't just want closure. I needed to know what he thought this was, who he thought she was. So I responded. Fine. Talk. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Cafe Onyx. I'll be at the back booth. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch with the TV buzzing low, some cooking show rerun about slow-roasted lamb, while Hank snored gently by my feet. But my mind kept spinning in loops. What if Mason was arrogant? What if he bragged? What if he didn't even know she was married? Or worse, what if he did, and didn't care? The next morning, I arrived 20 minutes early. I sat with my back to the wall, a mug of coffee going cold in front of me. I kept looking out the window, imagining every guy walking down the street was him. Tall, muscular, confident. I pictured tattoos, a perfect jawline, someone who would call me bro and act like I was just a footnote in his weekend adventure. But at 10:03, the door opened, and he walked in. And I swear to you, everything I expected shattered. He wasn't tall. He wasn't smug. He looked tired. His hair was a mess, like he hadn't slept either. No cocky strut, no gym bag slung over his shoulder. Just jeans, a black hoodie, and the kind of face that knew regret. He spotted me right away, walked over slowly, slid into the booth across from me. Linwood, right? Yeah. I'm Mason. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know you existed. I didn't say anything, just stared. But his eyes, they didn't dodge. They didn't flinch. And that's when I realized he was just another one of her lies. He reached into his pocket and placed his phone on the table. I brought these, he said. Not to hurt you, just so you see it for yourself. He opened the gallery. Folder labeled Cambria. And there they were. Photos, videos, voice notes. At first, I looked away. I didn't want to see her in another man's arms. But then I noticed something. A photo of her in the hotel room, with a glass of wine, curled up on the bed, wearing my hoodie. The one she said she lost on our cabin trip 2 winters ago. She took it there. To him. To their little escape. But then came the kicker. A voice note. He tapped play. Hey babe. I wish I could tell the truth, but I can't. Not yet. He's not stable. He's dependent on me. I can't destroy him right now. But soon. I promise. She was talking about me. Like I was some sick animal being carried out in a blanket. Like I wasn't strong enough to survive the truth. Like I was clinging to her out of weakness, when all I did was trust her. Mason looked up. That's when I started digging. Found her full name. Searched socials. Found the wedding photo. You and her in front of that blue lake in Montana. You looked happy. I swallowed the lump in my throat. He didn't say it with pity. He said it with confusion. Like he couldn't understand how someone could build a life with me and then craft an entirely different one with him. Layered, protected, rehearsed. She told me you were her cousin's roommate, he said. That you were gay. That you let her crash there because she needed space from her controlling family. I felt my hands curl into fists, not out of rage at Mason, but at how thoroughly she had buried me beneath a pile of fabrications. She didn't just lie. She rewrote me into a character that served her story. A prop. I asked him if he was still seeing her. He shook his head. Not after last night. That made me blink. What happened last night? He hesitated, then leaned forward. She came over, said she was officially done with you, that she was ready to start fresh. We slept together, but afterward, I asked her directly, were you ever going to tell me the truth? She said no, that it wasn't necessary. He looked disgusted. I told her to leave. I blocked her this morning. There was a strange silence between us. Two men who had both loved the same illusion. And yet, in that silence, I felt something else creep in. Not revenge, not hatred, but liberation. Because for the first time since this all began, I wasn't alone in knowing the truth. I stood up and said, thanks for meeting me. He nodded. I'm sorry, man. And as I walked out of the cafe, into the chill of late morning wind, I checked my phone. One missed call. From her. No voicemail. No text. Just a silent ping. She had no idea I'd just spoken to Mason. No idea that her worlds had collided. But I had an idea. It was time to give her exactly what she gave me. A truth she wasn't ready for. By the time I walked out of Cafe Onyx, I felt like I'd aged 5 years in one conversation. The cold air didn't bother me. I welcomed it. It made me feel awake. Mason's words still echoed in my ears, overlapping with that awful voice note. He's not stable. He's dependent on me. I kept hearing it over and over, like it was some sick mantra. I didn't want to go home. Home didn't feel like mine anymore. So I walked. No destination. Just hands shoved in my coat pockets and Hank's face sitting in my mind like a lighthouse I couldn't return to. My phone vibrated again, her number, one more time. I let it ring. Then I sat on a bench across from a bus stop and stared at the call history. 10 attempts in 2 hours. All from her. No texts. No apologies. No explanations. Just silent persistence, like I owed her something. I stared at the screen for a long while. And then I answered. Hello. There was silence on the other end. Then her voice, soft, like she had rehearsed the tone. Hey, I wasn't sure if you'd pick up. I didn't respond. I'm sorry, she said. I just got scared. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I almost laughed. Didn't mean for it to go this far. Like infidelity was a road trip that got out of hand because the map blew out the window. Did you tell Mason I was your cousin's gay roommate? I asked. She went completely still. Wait, you talked to him? Now I laughed. But it was cold, humorless. You didn't think that would happen? She tried to spin it. Said she didn't know how to handle both lives. That she wasn't sure what she wanted. That I'd been distant. That Mason was a distraction. But her voice cracked when I didn't interrupt her. I think it scared her that I wasn't reacting the way I used to. No pleading, no raised voice, no guilt-soaked questions. Just silence. Are you going to divorce me? She finally asked. And I told her the truth. I already packed half your things. I'll send you the rest. I'm changing the locks next week. She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, so that's it. After everything? I closed my eyes. You made sure of that. Then I hung up. I thought it would feel like a clean break. Like severing the final thread that had been choking me. But instead, I sat on that bench and shook. My hands, my shoulders, even my lips. Like my body wasn't ready to live without her, even if I was. When I got home, I walked straight to the bedroom and opened the drawer where I'd locked the envelope. I pulled it out, laid its contents across the bed, and stared at them again. The key, the receipt, the photo. All of it proof that I hadn't imagined this. That it really happened. That I wasn't overreacting. But I still couldn't stop wondering. What if I had never found the message? What if that airdrop hadn't triggered? Would she have gone on building 2 lives indefinitely, expecting me to just smile and refill her protein powder? And that's when the doorbell rang. I froze. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was almost 9 p.m. Too late for a neighbor, too early for a package. Hank growled low, which he almost never does. I stood slowly and approached the door, heart pounding harder with every step. I didn't say anything. I just looked through the peephole. And there she was. Cambria. No makeup. No coat. Just standing there in the same hoodie I saw in Mason's photo, my hoodie. She looked pale, like she hadn't eaten. Her eyes were red, her lips cracked. She knocked once more, then stepped back, waiting like a kid sent to the principal's office. I didn't open the door. I just asked, through the wood, "Why are you here?" She didn't hesitate. "Because I'm scared. I messed up. I lost everything. And I don't know who I am without you." I wanted to scream at her, tell her that I didn't know who I was anymore either, that she had taken my peace, my pride, my sense of home, and replaced it with doubt and late-night breakdowns. But instead, I did something else. I unlocked the door, opened it just a few inches, and said, "If you're looking for comfort, it's not here anymore." Then I shut it again, slowly, quietly, no drama. I leaned my back against the door and listened as she stood there for another full minute. Then her footsteps, then silence. I should have felt powerful, but all I felt was hollow. Until I walked back to the living room and noticed something I hadn't seen before, an envelope sticking out from under the couch. Not the one I found earlier, a new one. I picked it up. It was addressed to him, to Mason, and inside was a note that changed everything I thought I knew about her intentions. The envelope was thinner than the first, just a single sheet of folded paper inside. No photo, no receipt, nothing material. But the way it was partially wedged under the couch, like it had fallen and been forgotten, made my skin crawl. Because something told me it wasn't accidental. I held it in my hands, feeling that same sinking sensation I had when I first opened the messages on her tablet. My name wasn't on it. His was. Just M. Again. Like she couldn't even bring herself to write Mason all the way out. I opened it slowly, trying not to shake, though my fingers were already trembling. Her handwriting, I knew it instantly. The tight loops, the way she dotted her eyes with perfect circles, the little upward tilt of her lowercase e. It was the same script I used to find on sticky notes in my lunch, next to hearts and corny puns. Now, it was the same pen that cut through my piece. M, I need you to believe I'm serious. I'm not staying out of fear anymore. He's not violent, but he's passive. He crumbles under pressure. I'm tired of being responsible for his moods. I feel like I'm drowning in someone else's sadness. I want a future that doesn't revolve around managing someone else's survival. I want joy. You give me that. I read it twice, and then a third time. The words started to blur. Passive. Crumbles. Drowning. Was that really how she saw me? Like some dead weight dragging her down? The worst part? I recognized the language. It was textbook therapy speak. She had been rehearsing this, justifying it, reframing her betrayal as escape. Not from me as a husband, but from me as a burden. She didn't stop there. I won't ghost him. That's cruel. But I'm not going to pretend either. I've outgrown him. That's all this is. People grow. People evolve. I don't owe him my life just because he gave me his stability. I want to live before I disappear into that quiet forever. My breath caught. Disappear into that quiet forever. That was how she described our life. Not calm. Not comforting. Just slow, creeping suffocation. I wanted to burn the letter. I wanted to scream. But instead, I sat on the couch, clutching it in my lap like a confession, and stared at the blank TV screen until my own reflection blurred. I started whispering to myself, like a broken record. It wasn't always like this. It wasn't always like this. Because it wasn't. There was a time she laughed in my arms. A time we danced in the kitchen. A time she made fun of how I cried at the end of nature documentaries. A time she chose me. And now she was writing about me like I was some hollow man fading in the background of her movie. But here's where it gets strange. The letter was unfinished. It didn't end with her name. It ended mid-sentence. You said if I wanted to really move forward, I'd have to let go of. That's it. Nothing else. No signature. No punctuation. Just that dangling thought, like she got interrupted. Or changed her mind. Or maybe someone else saw it. A chill ran down my spine. What if Mason already had this letter? What if this wasn't the original? What if she had brought this back with her and it fell from her bag? On purpose? A test? A trap? I pulled up my phone. Texted Mason. Have you ever seen this letter? She mentions you. It's signed M. Ends mid-sentence. He responded less than a minute later. No. Never saw that. You still have it? Yes. Can I see it? I hesitated. He wasn't the enemy. Not really. But part of me wondered what role he had played. Was he more involved than he let on? Or was she playing us both on different strings? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. This time, not from Mason. It was from Cambria. I need to come back. Please. Not for us, for something I forgot. It's important. I'll only be 5 minutes. No explanation. I stood up, pacing the apartment, letter still in hand. What had she forgotten? The envelope? Something else she didn't want me to find? Or was it all just a performance to buy more time, more control? I didn't respond. I just sat back down and stared at the door. If she came back, I would be ready. Because this wasn't about love anymore. This was war. I didn't respond to her message. I didn't tell her to come. I didn't tell her to stay away. I just left the door unlocked and sat in the dark, the letter still on the coffee table, lit by the blue glow of the aquarium in the corner, the one she bought but never cleaned, the one I fed fish in while she posted selfies from yoga class. It was almost poetic how the room reflected who we were. She brought light. I maintained it. When the knock came, it wasn't soft. It was quick, urgent. 3 sharp taps followed by silence. I didn't move. Hank lifted his head from the floor and let out a low, uneasy groan. I stood up slowly and walked to the door, heart hammering. I expected her to be alone. She wasn't. Through the peephole, I saw her, disheveled, hoodie zipped up to her chin, standing next to a man in a dark gray coat. But it wasn't Mason. It was someone older, early 50s maybe, tall, stern face, dressed like someone who walked straight out of a bank or a courtroom. And he wasn't standing like a friend. He was flanking her like a handler, like someone there with purpose. I opened the door halfway. She looked startled to see my face so calm. I didn't say a word, just stared at the man next to her. She quickly gestured to him. "This is Douglas," she said, voice tight. He's my attorney." My stomach dropped. "Attorney?" He extended a hand toward me, but I didn't take it. "Mr. Linwood," he said formally, "we won't take much of your time. Cambria is here to collect a personal item that was left unintentionally. A letter. It contains private reflections that were never intended to be shared." I looked between them, my chest rising slowly. "She left it under my couch," I said. "In my apartment. After sneaking behind my back for months." Cambria's eyes darted nervously. She opened her mouth like she wanted to cut in, but the lawyer raised a finger slightly, and she stopped. Douglas continued. "Regardless of how it ended up here, it's her property. She's requesting its return." That's when it clicked. It was a trap. Maybe not planned in full, but definitely an opportunity she couldn't resist twisting. I was supposed to find the letter. I was supposed to doubt myself again. And now, she was trying to erase it. Not because she feared what I'd think, but because she feared what Mason might find out. I walked back inside without inviting them in, took the letter from the table, and returned to the door. I held it up. She reached for it, and I pulled it back. "You know what I find funny?" I asked, eyes locked on hers. "You could have just asked. You could have called and said, 'I left something I regret.' But instead, you bring a lawyer to my home? Like I'm the threat?" Cambria looked down, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know what you'd do." I leaned against the frame. "What did you tell him? That I was unstable? A liability? That I'd weaponize your words like you weaponized our marriage?" Douglas took a breath. "Mr. Linwood." "No," I snapped. "You don't get to speak for her. Not now." I turned to her. "You want the letter? Fine. But not until I get one answer. Who was it really for? Me? Him? Or just yourself? So you could feel like the victim while you planned your exit?" She didn't answer. Her eyes filled with tears, but they looked performed. Polished. Like she knew which expressions worked and how to angle them. "I was confused," she finally said. "That letter was never meant to hurt you. You know what hurts," I said, stepping forward. "It's not the letter. It's realizing that every part of our life, every smile, every I love you, every late-night promise, might have just been your emotional draft folder." That's when Douglas cleared his throat again. "We can resolve this peacefully." I looked at the envelope in my hand. For a second, I wanted to rip it, tear it in half, and scatter the pieces across the hallway floor. But I didn't. Instead, I did something she didn't expect. I handed it to her. She took it slowly, eyes wide. Her fingers brushed mine for a second, and I could feel her pulse. Rapid, uneasy. But as she turned to leave, I said one last thing. "Tell Mason I read it. Every word." She froze. I watched her body stiffen. "Also," I added, "you might want to check with him before sending anyone else to clean up your mess." She didn't look back, just walked away, heels clicking down the hall, Douglas by her side. I waited until the elevator doors closed before shutting mine. And then I breathed. A long, shaky exhale, like something had finally left my chest. But as I walked back into the living room, I noticed something else. The bottom drawer of her old desk, the one she hadn't used in over a year, was open. Just barely. And inside, under a pile of expired planner pages and dried-out markers, was a phone. Not her phone. A second one. And when I picked it up, it was still powered on. Unlocked. Charged. And what I saw on that screen shattered everything I thought I understood. I didn't even know she had a second phone. It was small, plain, older than the one she always carried. No case, no stickers, no fingerprint lock. Just open, sitting there like it had been waiting to be found. I turned it over in my hand, then tapped the screen. It lit up. A wallpaper of a forest trail we once hiked, the last vacation where we held hands without thinking. Then I opened the messages, and everything unraveled. Not violently, not explosively, but in a quiet, cutting way. Like soft rot under a painted wall. It wasn't just Mason. There were others. 3 different threads. 3 different names. Quotations. Promises. Each one carefully spaced out, never overlapping, but all starting with the same tone. I just need someone who sees me. It was the same bait she had used for Mason. And me. Probably anyone who looked at her long enough. But that's not what broke me. What broke me was the draft folder. One message she never sent, addressed to me. I thought I'd feel free when I left. But I only felt small. He made me feel like I was better than I really was. I blamed him for the quiet, but he wasn't the silence. I was. I made the noise with other people to drown out the parts of me I refused to fix. He didn't fail me. I failed us. And now I'm scared he'll finally realize he deserved someone who never had to be convinced to stay. I read it 10 times. Then I closed the phone. And for the first time in months, I let go. Not with bitterness. Not with anger. But with peace. She wasn't the villain I painted her to be. Just a deeply broken person trying to use others to fix herself. I just happened to be the one who stood still long enough to catch the falling pieces. Until she decided they weren't hers anymore. The next morning, I dropped the phone off at a courier with no return address. Just a sticky note. You left this in the drawer. Please don't come back. Then I changed the locks. I deep cleaned the apartment. Bought new curtains. Replaced our photos with art I actually liked. Got Hank a new bed by the window. One he immediately claimed with the pride of a dog who knows his human is starting over. I called my brother, the one I hadn't spoken to in months because I was always too busy holding things together. We made plans to go hiking in Colorado this fall. I signed up for a painting class. I started reading again. Not to escape, but to dream a little. And slowly, I stopped checking my phone every hour. I stopped staring at the door like it owed me answers. I stopped seeing myself through her eyes. I remembered how to be Linwood. And here's the truth, the honest, final truth. Yes, she betrayed me. Yes, I lost a version of love I believed in. But what I gained, what I reclaimed, was myself. Fully, quietly, without apology. And if you're still here, watching, let me ask you something. Was there a moment in this story that made you think of your own life? Something small, something loud, something you didn't expect? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more stories that might just sound a little too real. Thanks for listening. I'm okay now. I really am.